Welcome to Trinity Church, Wall Street. My name is Phil Jackson. I'm the vicar here at Trinity. Trinity has been here in Lower Manhattan for almost 320 years. Many of our founding fathers were members of Trinity. One of our founding fathers, Alexander Hamilton, was also here at Trinity. Here with me is our archivist, Ann Petromu, who will tell us more about Hamilton's involvement.
It's fitting that Alexander Hamilton is buried here because Trinity played an important role in his life almost from the moment that he arrived here in New York, and we're going to explore some of those connections today. Alexander Hamilton moved from the Caribbean to the American colonies in 1772 and lived for a time in New Jersey. He enrolled in King's College, now known as Columbia University, in 1773. King's College was actually founded with help from Trinity Church in 1754. Trinity gave them land on which to build the college. Before the college was built, the first classes were held in Trinity Schoolhouse, located in the corner of Trinity Churchyard. I'm here in the churchyard at St. Paul's Chapel, near where Alexander Hamilton attended school at King's College. In the run-up to the Revolution, Hamilton drilled here with his militia in the churchyard. We're here in front of the grave with the saddest connection to Alexander Hamilton. This is the grave of George Eaker, who killed Hamilton's son Philip in a duel. Eaker died just 3 years later and is buried here at St. Paul's.
And after the war, Hamilton and his wife Eliza built a house down at 5758 Wall Street. At the same time that Hamilton was involved in establishing the American government, he was also involved in life here at Trinity.
We're standing in the third Trinity Church building. Hamilton would have known the first or the second Trinity churches. The first one burned down in 1776, and the second one, which probably he would have known best, was built in 1790. There's one place where we can see remnants of the second church building, which is right here. We have the Cornerstone from the church which was consecrated in 1790.
And it's interesting that John Jay is listed as a church warden on that Cornerstone. Jay, of course, was the first Chief Justice of the United States Supreme Court, as well as Governor of New York. Jay, along with Hamilton, was also the founder of the New York Manumission Society.
There is one other place where we can see some remnants of the second church, things that Hamilton would recognize, which is over in the archives. We have some documents. So 5 of Alexander Hamilton's 8 children were baptized here at Trinity. This baptismal register shows the first 3 that were baptized at Trinity. They were brought in 1788 over the course of a couple days, and we notice that his sister-in-law, Angelica Church, served as the baptismal sponsor for one of them, actually named Angelica. So this is a pew rental subscription list. This is a very common way for early churches to earn money. In order to support themselves, one of the things they did was they had to rent the pews in the church. We see in this book that Alexander Hamilton has rented pew number 92.
So does this mean that Hamilton was a member of Trinity?
Not necessarily. This document tells us a little bit more about his membership status. So this is a list of communicants kept by Trinity's rector, Benjamin Moore. And this document is from 1801. These are people who came to church every Sunday and received communion. And we note that Hamilton's wife, Elizabeth Hamilton, is listed here. However, noticeably absent is Alexander Hamilton. This scroll is another document that shows us that Alexander Hamilton was more than just a pew holder at Trinity Church, that he was actively involved in the parish life. This is a petition to elect a certain assistant minister to the parish. And we see that Alexander Hamilton has signed here in support of the Reverend Bissett.
And do you know if they were successful in calling him?
They were. The Reverend John Bissett was called to be the new assistant minister of Trinity Parish. This is another example of Alexander Hamilton's involvement with Trinity Parish. So on this side, we have his involvement with the congregational life, and on this side, we have his involvement in more of the business of Trinity. So Alexander Hamilton was a lawyer, and one of the ways that he gave of himself, ways he contributed to the church, was to offer his legal services.
What do we have here? I see a famous name here.
Trinity actually had dealings with Aaron Burr. Hamilton was on the church side. Burr was on the real estate side. So Aaron Burr actually had rented from Trinity an estate called the Richmond Hill Estate. After the duel, however, what this document shows us, he had to make some changes and get some cash. So what he did was he actually sublet his mortgage to John Jacob Astor.
And we all know the story of Hamilton's death, about his duel with Vice President Aaron Burr in Weehawken, New Jersey, just across the Hudson River.
Hamilton actually lived until 2 p.m. the following day. We don't know his full membership status at Trinity, but we do know that he called for Trinity's rector, Bishop Benjamin Moore, as he lay dying.
My understanding is that initially Benjamin Moore dragged his feet and wouldn't come because of his own personal aversion to dueling and how he saw it as morally impermissible and a violation of Christian duty.
Moore believed that if he responded to Hamilton's call, that it could be seen as the church condoning dueling.
That's a fascinating sort of commentary on today, because certainly if someone had called me to come give last rites, I would come right away.
So Moore eventually came and did give Hamilton his communion and his last rites after he and Hamilton had a conversation in which Hamilton said that he forgave Burr, that he bore him no ill will, and that if he lived, he would spend his days telling people not to duel, that he renounced dueling. Buried next to Alexander Hamilton is his wife Eliza, who outlived him by 50 years. Though she was an active Trinity churchgoer while Alexander was alive, she moved away after his death, so did not continue to be a member. Also buried at Trinity is Alexander Hamilton's eldest son, Philip, who died in a duel 3 years before his father. It's thought that perhaps due to the dishonorable nature of his death, he was buried here in an unmarked grave or just outside the bounds of the churchyard. Either way, the location of his grave remains a mystery. We're here in Trinity's North Churchyard, where Angelica Schuyler Church is buried. She is interred here in the Livingston Vault because she's related to the Livingston family through her maternal grandmother. Also in the North Churchyard is the monument to Albert Gallatin. Albert Gallatin and Alexander Hamilton were political rivals. Gallatin was a Jeffersonian and Hamilton was a Federalist. I'm standing here in Trinity's South Churchyard in front of the monument to General Horatio Gates, who is buried here at Trinity. Hamilton and Gates fought alongside one another during the Revolutionary War, but they clashed over Gates' unwillingness to recognize Washington's authority. One of Alexander Hamilton's first friends when he arrived in New York was a man by the name of Hercules Mulligan. Mulligan strongly influenced Hamilton's revolutionary views, and Mulligan himself used his position as a tailor and his access to British officers to spy for George Washington during the Revolutionary War. Mulligan was a vestryman of Trinity Church, and our records suggest that he is buried in the Sanders Vault, which is no longer accessible because it is beneath the church. I'm standing here behind the Mulligan and Whaley Vault, which is the final resting place of his mother and sister.
And it's fitting that Hamilton should share his final resting place with many of those who helped shape his life.
There's those that he loved, like his wife Eliza, his sister-in-law Angelica, and his son Philip. There's also those that he opposed politically, like Albert Gallatin.
Here in the shadow of Trinity Church, which has been here in New York City for 320 years. For more information or to view these documents on your own, please visit our website, trinitywallstreet.org.